Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Last Friday night at Jake's house party, I watched my girlfriend of 2 years perform what she thought would be the highlight of her evening, publicly dumping me in front of all our friends to see how desperately I'd fight for her. What she got instead was a masterclass in why you should never test someone who knows their worth. I had arrived early to help Jake set up for his birthday party. We'd been friends since college, and I always pitched in when he hosted events. It was something I genuinely enjoyed, the planning, the preparation, the satisfaction of seeing everything come together perfectly. Sarah was supposed to come with me, but she texted around for saying she'd arrive later with her friends. Nothing unusual there. She loved making entrances, being the center of attention when she walked into a room. I was carrying folding chairs from the garage when I heard familiar voices coming from the bathroom near the kitchen. The door was cracked open, and Sarah's distinctive laugh echoed off the tile walls. I wouldn't normally eavesdrop, but something about the tone of their conversation made me pause. Okay, so I'll say something like, "This isn't working anymore," and then you guys position yourselves around the room, Sarah was saying, her voice excited and conspiratorial. Make sure you can see his face when I do it. I want to catch every expression. Oh my God, this is going to be hilarious, came Jessica's voice, one of Sarah's closest friends since high school. I still can't believe you're actually going through with this. You're so much braver than I am. I stopped moving entirely, chairs forgotten in my hands. What were they planning? My cousin tried this with her boyfriend last month, another voice chimed in. That was definitely Mia, Sarah's co-worker from the marketing firm. He literally got on his knees in front of everyone begging her not to leave. She made him promise to take her on a vacation to Europe and buy her that designer bag she'd been wanting before she forgave him. See? It works every single time, Sarah said, and I could hear the excitement building in her voice. Guys need to be reminded of what they could lose. Ryan's gotten way too comfortable lately. He barely even tries to impress me anymore. When's the last time he surprised me with flowers or planned a romantic date? My blood ran cold. They were talking about staging a fake breakup. With me, in front of everyone at the party. But what if he just agrees with you? Came a fourth voice, Amanda, Sarah's newest friend from her yoga class who'd been pushing increasingly toxic relationship advice on her for months. What if he doesn't fight back like your cousin's boyfriend did? Sarah laughed dismissively, the sound sharp and confident. Trust me, no guy lets his girlfriend walk away in front of all his friends without making a scene. His ego won't let him. Plus, he loves me way too much to just give up. Remember how jealous he got when that guy from my office started texting me? That's true, Jessica agreed. He's totally whipped. This is going to be perfect. Make sure you record it, Mia said with obvious glee. This is going to be perfect content for your Instagram. Testing my boyfriend's love in public, or something like that. It'll probably go viral. Think about all the views and comments you'll get. I felt my jaw clench involuntarily. They were planning to humiliate me for social media entertainment. When exactly should I do it? Sarah asked, clearly getting into the tactical details. Wait until the party gets going good, Amanda suggested, her voice taking on the tone of someone who'd clearly orchestrated drama like this before. You want a good audience, but not so late that people are too drunk to pay attention properly. Maybe around 9 o'clock? That's when everyone will be settled in, but still sober enough to really focus on the drama. Perfect timing, Sarah agreed. And remember, I need you guys to back me up if he starts getting defensive or tries to turn it around on me. Make it clear that any good boyfriend would fight for his relationship. Really sell the idea that he should be doing more to prove his love. Oh, we've got your back completely, Amanda assured her, and I could practically hear her smiling. This is going to be so good. I can't wait to see him scramble and try to win you back. Men are so predictable when their security gets threatened. What if he gets angry instead of sad? Jessica wondered aloud. Even better, Mia said. Then we can make him look like the bad guy who can't handle his girlfriend expressing her feelings. Either way, Sarah comes out looking good and gets to see exactly how much power she has over him. I heard the sound of lipstick being applied, then the rustle of them preparing to leave the bathroom. I quickly moved toward the kitchen, setting the chairs down just as they emerged, chattering and laughing like they hadn't just been plotting my public humiliation. Hey babe, Sarah said brightly, practically bouncing over to kiss my cheek like she hadn't just spent 10 minutes planning to emotionally manipulate me in front of our entire social circle. Sorry I'm late. We got caught up getting ready and lost track of time. No problem at all, I replied calmly, studying her face with new eyes. She looked excited, almost giddy, like a child anticipating Christmas morning. Her friends exchanged meaningful glances behind her back, barely able to contain their anticipation. This is going to be such a fun party, Jessica said with barely contained laughter, her eyes practically sparkling with mischief. Yeah, I have a feeling tonight's going to be really memorable, Mia added, and they all burst into giggles. I spent the next hour helping Jake finish setting up while my mind raced through everything I'd overheard. Part of me wanted to confront Sarah immediately, to call her out on her manipulation plan right then and there. But something held me back. A better idea was slowly forming in my head. If Sarah wanted to test me publicly, if she wanted to see how I'd react to being humiliated in front of our friends, then she was about to learn something very important about her boyfriend. I wasn't the type of man who begged or pleaded for anyone's attention. I wasn't going to dance like a puppet for her and her friends' entertainment. And I certainly wasn't going to give them the dramatic reaction they were expecting. Jake noticed I was quieter than usual as we arranged furniture and set up the sound system. Everything okay, man? You seem a little distracted. Just thinking about some stuff, I replied, which wasn't exactly a lie. Girl trouble? He asked with a knowing look. Something like that. Nothing I can't handle, though. By 8:30, the party was in full swing. Jake's house was packed with our college friend group, co-workers from various companies, and assorted plus ones. The music was loud enough to feel energetic, but not so loud you couldn't have conversations. Drinks were flowing freely, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. Everyone except me, who was watching Sarah position herself strategically near the center of the living room while her friends spread out around the space like actors taking their marks. I was talking to my buddy Mike about a project we were both working on when I noticed Jessica pull out her phone and start recording discreetly, holding it at an angle that would capture the area where Sarah and I were standing. Amanda and Mia had positioned themselves with clear sight lines, phones ready, anticipating the drama they thought was about to unfold. Sarah took a deep breath and walked up to me with an expression I'd never seen before, serious, almost theatrical, like an actress preparing for her big scene. The conversations around us gradually quieted as people sensed something was about to happen. This was exactly what she'd been counting on. Ryan, we need to talk, she said loudly enough for half the party to hear, her voice carrying that serious tone her friends had probably coached her to use. I looked at her calmly, setting down my beer. Sure, what's on your mind? She took another deep breath, clearly steeling herself for her performance. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about us, about our relationship, and I don't think this is working anymore. The room went noticeably quieter, conversations trailing off as people turned to look. I could see her friends leaning in, phones positioned perfectly, anticipating the drama they thought was about to unfold. I nodded slowly, as if processing this shocking revelation for the first time. You're absolutely right, I said simply, my voice calm and measured. Her eyes widened slightly. This clearly wasn't the script she'd prepared for. What did you just say? You said it's not working anymore. I believe you. Thank you for being honest about your feelings. I pulled my keys from my pocket and set my beer down on the nearest table with deliberate precision. I'll come by your place this weekend to get my stuff. Enjoy your freedom, Sarah. I started walking toward the front door, weaving through the crowd of stunned party guests. The silence in the room was deafening. You could literally hear the music playing, but no one was talking. Wait, Sarah called out, her voice cracking with what sounded like genuine panic. Her composure was completely shattered. That's it. You're just leaving? I turned back to face her, noting that we now had the undivided attention of the entire party. Even people who'd been in other rooms had wandered over to see what was happening. What did you expect? I asked with genuine curiosity. You just broke up with me. But don't you want to talk about this? Try to work things out? Fight for what we have. I could see her friends exchanging panicked looks. This was definitely not going according to their carefully laid plan. Work what out? I replied reasonably. You just told me our relationship isn't working. I respect your decision, and I'm accepting it. I'm not going to force someone to be with me who clearly doesn't want to be. I thought you loved me, she said, her voice rising with what now sounded like genuine emotion rather than performance. I do love you, I replied without hesitation. That's exactly why I'm not going to force you to stay in a relationship that makes you unhappy. Love means wanting the other person to be happy, even if that means they're happier without you. Someone from across the room, I think it was Tom from Jake's work, called out, "Dude, aren't you going to fight for her? Try to change her mind?" I looked in the direction of the voice, addressing not just Tom, but the entire room. Fight for what exactly? She's made her choice. She's told me clearly that our relationship isn't working for her. I'm not going to beg someone to be with me who doesn't want to be. That's not love. That's desperation. Sarah's face was flushing red now, clearly realizing that her plan was backfiring spectacularly. Her friends looked desperate, probably realizing they were witnessing a disaster of their own making. Maybe we could just take a break instead? Sarah suggested weakly, grasping for anything that might salvage the situation. A break sounds like a great idea. I agreed readily. How long were you thinking? A few weeks? A month? 6 months? I want to make sure you have enough time to really figure out what you want. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She clearly hadn't thought through any alternative scenarios beyond me getting upset and fighting to keep her. Jessica, unable to contain herself any longer and probably panicking about how badly this was going, stepped forward. "Sarah, just tell him how you really feel about him." I looked at Jessica with polite interest. How she really feels about what specifically? About the relationship. About you. Jessica stammered, realizing she was making things worse. She just did tell me how she really feels. I replied logically. She said it's not working and she wants to end things. Those seem like pretty clear feelings to me. I'm not sure what else there is to discuss. Mia jumped in, clearly trying to salvage the situation. But all couples go through rough patches. This is totally normal. You just need to work harder to make her happy. This isn't a rough patch, I said, looking directly at Sarah. This is her making a conscious decision to end our relationship. And I'm mature enough to respect that decision rather than trying to manipulate or pressure her into changing her mind. The party guests were now openly staring at the spectacle unfolding before them. Some were whispering to each other, clearly sensing something was off about the whole situation. Others looked genuinely uncomfortable, like they were witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing. Sarah was starting to panic now, realizing she was trapped in the lie she'd created. "You're being really immature about this whole thing, Ryan." I raised an eyebrow, genuinely curious about her logic. "I'm being immature? By respecting your decision and leaving quietly instead of causing a scene or trying to pressure you into staying with me." "That's not what I meant," she said desperately. "Then what did you mean exactly?" "Because you said you wanted to break up, and I said okay. I'm handling this as maturely as possible by accepting your decision and not making it more difficult or dramatic than it needs to be." Amanda, clearly frustrated that their carefully planned drama was failing so badly, couldn't help herself. She just wants to see that you care enough to fight for the relationship. She wants to know that she matters to you. The room went completely silent. Even the music seemed quieter somehow. Amanda had just admitted exactly what this was really about. I looked at Amanda with genuine fascination. So she broke up with me to test whether I cared about her? To see if I would fight for our relationship? Amanda's face went white as she realized what she'd just revealed to the entire party. I didn't mean it like that. Amanda stammered, trying desperately to backtrack. But I wasn't finished. I addressed the room at large, my voice carrying clearly over the music and stunned silence. "That's really interesting," I said conversationally, "because I happened to overhear you all rehearsing this entire scenario in the bathroom earlier today." Sarah's face drained of all color. She looked like she might actually faint. "The part where you planned to position yourself strategically around the room to watch my reaction. Where Jessica was going to film the whole thing for social media content. Where you discussed how long I would grovel before Sarah graciously took me back." Jessica's phone, which had been recording the entire time, suddenly disappeared behind her back. But it was too late. Everyone had noticed it. The party guests were now murmuring among themselves, looking between Sarah and her friends with a mixture of disgust and disbelief. "You planned this whole thing," someone said from the crowd, their voice carrying clear disapproval. "That's so incredibly messed up," another voice added. "Who does something like that to someone they supposedly love?" "This is psychotic behavior," came a third voice. I looked directly at Sarah, who was now crying. But these tears looked genuine, unlike her earlier performance. "The breakup you staged for your friend's entertainment?" I said quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's real now." I turned and walked toward the door again. But this time Sarah followed me outside, her friends trailing behind like guilty children who'd been caught doing something they knew was wrong. The cool night air was a relief after the stuffy atmosphere inside. Sarah grabbed my arm as we reached the front lawn. "Ryan, please, I'm so sorry," she said desperately, tears streaming down her face. "It was so stupid. I never actually wanted to break up with you. I love you." I stopped and looked at her, really looked at her, probably for the first time in months. "The problem isn't that you tested me, Sarah. It's that you thought I was someone who could be manipulated like this. I don't understand what you mean. You valued your friend's entertainment more than my dignity. You were willing to humiliate me in front of everyone we know for what? Social media views? To see me beg and grovel? To prove some point about your power over me?" Her tears were flowing freely now, but I wasn't finished. "Instead of talking to me about feeling unappreciated, you decided to stage a public breakup. Instead of communicating like an adult, you chose manipulation and games. My friends said you didn't appreciate me anymore," she said desperately. "They said you were getting too comfortable, that you needed a wake-up call to remember what you could lose. So you decided to embarrass me publicly instead of having a private conversation with me about your needs." She had no answer for that, just continued crying. "Someone who really loved me wouldn't try to humiliate me for entertainment," I continued. "Someone who respected me wouldn't test me like I'm some kind of lab experiment. And someone who trusted me would talk to me directly instead of playing games." "But I do love you," she protested. "No, you don't," I said with quiet certainty. "You love the idea of having power over me. You love having someone you can manipulate when you're bored or insecure. You love the drama and attention. But that's not love, Sarah. That's control." Jessica, who had been silent during this exchange, finally spoke up. "It wasn't supposed to go like this at all." I looked at her with cold amusement. "What was it supposed to go like, Jessica? Was I supposed to get on my knees and beg? Promise to buy Sarah expensive gifts? Cry and promise to change everything about myself to make her happy?" "We just wanted to help her feel more secure in the relationship," Mia said defensively. "By teaching her to be manipulative and dishonest? That's your idea of relationship security?" Amanda, who had started this whole mess with her toxic advice, made one last desperate attempt at justification. "Every relationship needs some testing to make sure both people are really committed. It's normal to want proof that your partner really loves you." I looked at her directly. "Does your relationship need testing? Did you manipulate your boyfriend by pretending to leave him for entertainment? Does he know that you think healthy relationships require psychological games?" She fell silent, unable to meet my eyes. "Here's what I learned about tests tonight," I said, addressing all four of them. "When someone tests you, they're telling you they don't trust you. When someone manipulates you, they're telling you they don't respect you. And when someone lies to you and humiliates you for their friend's amusement, they're telling you exactly who they are as a person." "Please," Sarah whispered, reaching for my hand. "Can we start over? Pretend this never happened? I'll do anything to fix this." "No," I said simply, pulling my hand away. "Because now I know who you really are. And more importantly, I know who I am. I'm someone who won't be tested, manipulated, or disrespected. Not by you, and certainly not by your toxic friends." I started walking toward my car, parked at the end of Jake's driveway. "Where are you going?" Sarah called after me, her voice desperate and broken. "Home. To my apartment. Where I live alone. Where I won't have to wonder if my girlfriend is planning to humiliate me for her friend's entertainment." "This is insane," she shouted. "You're throwing away 2 years over one stupid mistake." I stopped and turned back one final time. "This wasn't a mistake, Sarah. Mistakes are accidents. This was a deliberate choice. You spent time planning it, recruited your friends to help, and were excited about filming my reaction. That's not a moment of poor judgment. That's who you are." As I drove away, I could see them still standing on Jake's front lawn in my rearview mirror, probably trying to figure out how to salvage the situation. But there was nothing to salvage. The relationship was over the moment Sarah decided her friend's approval and entertainment was more important than my dignity and our trust. The next morning, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in months: relief. My phone was full of messages, but I ignored them while I made coffee and processed what had happened. When I finally looked, there were texts from friends who'd witnessed the disaster, offering support and expressing disbelief at what Sarah had done. Several mutual acquaintances had reached out, some wanting gossip, others genuinely concerned. But the most telling messages were from Sarah herself. The progression was almost textbook. First came the desperate apologies, then the bargaining, then anger when she realized I wasn't responding, then more apologies mixed with blame shifting. I'm so sorry, baby. I know I messed up big time. Please call me back. I can't believe you're ignoring me. We need to talk about this like adults. My friends are toxic, and I'm cutting them off completely. This is all their fault for putting ideas in my head. You're being incredibly cruel by not even giving me a chance to explain. I love you so much. Don't throw us away over one stupid night. I deleted each message without responding. Sunday brought flowers to my apartment. Expensive ones, the kind Sarah knew I thought were a waste of money. The card read, I know I messed up. Give me one chance to prove I've changed. I love you more than anything. I threw them in the trash without a second thought. Monday was a long email explaining how her friends had been filling her head with bad advice for months, and how she now understood that real love doesn't need testing or games. She promised to go to therapy, to work on her insecurity and need for validation, to become the girlfriend I deserved. Tuesday brought another email, this one analyzing everything that had gone wrong in our relationship and taking full responsibility for all of it. She promised to do better, be better, love me better. Wednesday evening, she showed up at my apartment. I opened the door to find her standing there with red, puffy eyes and the most desperate expression I'd ever seen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. 5 minutes, she pleaded before I could say anything. Just give me 5 minutes to explain everything. Then if you still want me to leave, I'll go and never bother you again. There's nothing to explain, I said calmly, not moving from the doorway. You made your choice when you decided to publicly humiliate me for entertainment. I was insecure and stupid. My friends convinced me you were taking me for granted, that you didn't appreciate me anymore. So you decided the solution was to fake a breakup in front of all our friends and film my reaction for social media? She winced at the blunt summary. I know how it sounds now, but at the time it made sense. They said you needed a wake-up call to remember what you could lose. I leaned against my doorframe, studying her face. She looked genuinely miserable, but I felt nothing except a distant kind of pity. Do you know what actually would have been a wake-up call? I asked, sitting me down privately and telling me you felt underappreciated. Having an adult conversation about your needs in the relationship. Communicating like a mature person instead of playing games. I tried that approach before. When I asked directly, she opened and closed her mouth, clearly realizing she'd never actually tried the direct approach. She'd gone straight to manipulation and drama. You chose manipulation over communication, I continued. You chose your friend's toxic advice over trusting your partner. You chose drama and attention over honesty and respect. And worst of all, you were willing to damage my reputation and dignity for what you thought would be funny content for your social media. I'm not friends with them anymore, she said desperately. I blocked all their numbers, deleted them from social media. I told them they nearly destroyed the best thing in my life with their terrible advice. They didn't nearly destroy our relationship, Sarah. You destroyed it. They gave you suggestions, but you made the choice to follow through. You were excited about it. You couldn't wait to see me humiliated. Please, she whispered, tears starting again. I love you so much. I know I messed up terribly, but people make mistakes. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me? I looked at her for a long moment, feeling something that might have been sadness for what we'd had before she decided to turn our relationship into a social experiment. Forgiveness isn't the issue here, I said finally. Trust is the issue. How could I ever trust you again? How would I know that the next time you felt insecure or bored, you wouldn't try something like this again? I would never. You said you'd never do something like this in the first place, but you did. You spent days planning it with your friends. You recruited them to help you humiliate me. You were excited about filming my reaction. That's not a moment of poor judgment, Sarah. That's a pattern of behavior that shows me exactly who you are. She was crying harder now, but I felt nothing but that same distant pity. I'm not the same person who would put up with being tested and manipulated, I continued. That version of me died on Friday night, when you decided our relationship was a game for you and your friends to play. So that's it. 2 years together, and you're just throwing it all away over one night? I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away when you chose to prioritize your friend's entertainment over my dignity and our trust. I started to close the door, but she put her hand against it, desperation clear in her eyes. What if I go to counseling? What if I work on myself and prove I've changed? What if I do whatever it takes to earn back your trust? Then you'll be a better partner for someone else, I said gently but firmly. But not for me. Some lines, once crossed, change everything permanently. She finally moved her hand, understanding that I was serious. I closed the door quietly, and this time she didn't try to stop me. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah had indeed cut ties with Jessica, Mia, and Amanda completely. Apparently, the fallout from the party had been severe enough that other people in our extended social circle had started avoiding them too. Word had gotten around about what they'd done, and their reputation for stirring up relationship drama had finally caught up with them. Jake told me that Sarah had tried to paint herself as a victim of bad advice, but most people saw through it. She was the one who'd chosen to follow through with the plan. She was the one who'd been excited about humiliating me publicly. Her friends might have planted the seed, but she'd watered it, nurtured it, and watched it grow into something truly ugly. Mike mentioned that he'd run into Jessica at a coffee shop, and she'd actually had the nerve to complain that people were treating her unfairly over one little incident. She genuinely didn't seem to understand why people found her behavior so appalling. I never responded to any of Sarah's messages after that day at my apartment. She eventually stopped trying, and I heard through the grapevine that she'd started dating someone new about 6 months later. I genuinely hoped for his sake that she'd actually learned something from our disaster, though I had my doubts. As for me, I learned some invaluable lessons that night. I learned that knowing your worth means being willing to walk away from anyone who doesn't recognize it. I learned that real love doesn't need testing, manipulation, or games. And I learned that sometimes the best way to win is to refuse to play by someone else's toxic rules. The test was over, but the lesson was permanent. Some people will try to turn your love into their entertainment, your trust into their power trip, your relationship into their social media content. The key is making sure they only get one chance to do it. 8 months after that Friday night at Jake's party, I was doing better than I had in years. I'd started dating someone new, a woman named Claire who I'd met through work. She communicated directly, respected boundaries, and thought the idea of testing your partner was absolutely ridiculous. When I told her the story of what had happened with Sarah, her reaction was immediate and unequivocal. Anyone who would do that to someone they supposedly love doesn't understand what love actually is. That's not insecurity. That's cruelty. That's when I knew I'd found someone who truly got it. Someone who understood that real relationships are built on trust, communication, and mutual respect, not games, tests, or manipulation tactics designed to prove power or generate content. The night Sarah tried to publicly break up with me for her friend's entertainment, she thought she was testing my love for her. What she actually did was test my respect for myself, and I passed with flying colors.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.